Hello and welcome back to All For United with your host, Usmaan Akhtar. As you can see, I'm joined here by Kojo. How are you doing, Kojo?
I'm feeling wonderful, man. How you doing?
I'm not too bad. We are waiting for our last guest. I think he's just joined now. Perfect
Yeah.
timing, always perfect timing. Abdul, how are you doing, bro?
I'm good, bro. How are you? Can you hear me properly?
Yep.
Good. I can't actually hear him. I don't know if you can hear him,
I
Kojo.
can. I can. Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. I'm just going to kick you quickly, and then if you rejoin, because obviously my audio is a bit messy sometimes. Give me a second. Right, okay, just whilst we're waiting for him to get back in, it is a breakdown and banter show. Make sure if you're tuning in on social media platforms such as Twitter that you come over to YouTube, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and just show the boys some love. They're doing fantastic work, and stay tuned for the transfer shows as always. Anyways, this show is all about yesterday's game and going over what happened in yesterday's 2-1 win over LASK. I almost forgot we were playing against. It was that irrelevant, but excuse my ignorance. Abdul, you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you?
Oh, perfect. Yeah, fantastic. There we go. We're back to normal now. Okay, so as I was saying, if you are joining us on YouTube, get your comments in the comment section. We'll put them on screen. We will be dissecting yesterday's victory. But first and foremost, I just want to start with the team selection and the lineup because there was a few surprises there. Ollie did speak in the interview saying it's going to be a very similar team. But for me personally, there was a couple of shocks in there. Obviously, I'll see what the boys have got to say first and foremost. Kojo, we'll come to you firstly. What were your thoughts on the team selection?
I wasn't really surprised. I think it was kind of what I expected. Apart from Maguire starting, I didn't think Maguire would start today. Oh, today. I think yesterday on the game.
Yeah.
Which surprised me, but I guess because he is club captain, he is captain. Ole would put him in. But as for the team selection for the rest of it, I thought it was what I expected. I wasn't expecting too much else apart from that. So yeah, I wasn't upset. I wasn't happy. He was just like, yeah, this is what I expect, and hopefully we win the game, which we did.
I can hear you.
Later on.
Can't hear you. Oh, okay.
Abdul, will come to you regarding Maguire. Obviously, Coach has mentioned Maguire was a bit of a surprise. Was there anyone else that you wanted to see feature from the start, or do you think, like Coach said, it was a pretty predictable lineup?
Honestly, I expected Garner to be in the lineup or at least on the bench. Maybe Laird, but I wasn't expecting Laird to be in the starting 11. Maybe on the bench. But like Kojo said, the Maguire one was a bit of a surprise for me because Maguire has played every single minute for us, apart from one game or two in the League Cup.
Yeah, obviously you both touched upon Maguire. Was it a case that Mengi should have started? Like for me personally, with 5-0 up at home, Kojo, do you think Ollie was a bit? Yeah, I suppose the front six I can't really argue, but in the defensive position, do you think he was a bit safe? He could have probably just been a bit more adventurous, chucked a bit more of the youth in, seen what the situation was. Because Mengi did come on, but I did want to see him start. What was your perspective on the fact that he didn't play the likes of Garner, the likes of Laird that we was thinking we might see? He didn't even get any minutes, neither of them did. So that was a bit disappointing for me. But what were your thoughts on that?
I think in regards to Maguire, I think because he did detail that a lot of players will be missing match sharpness, they'll be lacking that. So I think he wanted someone that has been playing the minutes. And if you're going to pick one of the two, even though I do prefer Lindelof, I think it makes sense to start your captain. So, yeah, it made sense to me. Obviously, I would have liked to see Mengi as well, but some of the youth guys have been playing games as well. So it might take a bit of time, Garner, Chong, but all in all, yeah, it made sense that he started. I don't agree with it, but for foresight, yeah, I think it made sense.
All right, fair enough. Let's move on to the way we approach the game. Abdul, will come to you first and foremost, as it's your first show. Yeah. So what I want to know from you is what were your thoughts on the way we approached the game? For me personally, I was massively surprised at how passive we were in the first 30 minutes. It just seemed like we looked nervous, even though we're 5-0 up.
I think like me myself, my reaction was a bit harsh yesterday. I tweeted out that Scott McTominay should have been doing much better than this because they've done so well for us at the beginning of the season. But they seem that they lacked a lot of sharpness. Their passing was not on point at all in the first at least 25 minutes. But in terms of the system and how we went about the game, that hasn't changed. It's just the personnel have changed. You know what I mean? So even if Pogba, Matic, and our regular 11 had started, the approach itself would have been the same thing exactly, but just better passing. You know what I mean? And what we lacked, and it's obvious because of the games that they haven't played yet, the number of games, is the decision making. Like even more than the misplaced passes, the decision making in the final third was abysmal.
Yeah, just to carry on from what you just said there. First and foremost, regarding the passing, I personally completely agree. I thought we looked like a team with a lot of players that haven't played together. Obviously, I know we made a lot of changes, which some people would agree with, some people don't agree with. But where do you stand on the situation in terms of, would you put that down to the players, or do you put that down to Oli not tactically setting them up in a manner which they can play? It didn't seem like there was any patterns of play.
No, I wouldn't put it down to Oli, to be honest. Like I said, the system hasn't changed. So in terms of the 4-2-3-1 and how Oli approaches it, that hasn't been have been haven't changed a lot. So if we are doing our defensive work, right, we go back into our shape, which is the 4-4-2. If we go back into our offensive, we're in the final third, we go back into the 2-3-5. And the 2-3-5, we need the two inside forwards, the two left backs, and the center forward in front, with the two holding midfielders in the middle, with the attacking midfielder, or one of the fullbacks if the attacking midfielder is on the flanks to create play. So in that regard, that hasn't changed. It's just the ability of the players is completely different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and this is where I go back to saying the quality of players. You see that more and more as you go up with the quality, with the decisions in the final third, the decisions in situations where it's tight, where they're pressed, where they trying to find gaps, and which would be the best pass to go to. Should I ball or not? This is what defines a quality player and an average player and a bad player.
Yeah, so Coach, I've just spoken about the quality, the lack of quality on show in particular. I thought it was quite evident that there was a massive drop off. I thought, well, we've seen that already when players like Pogba and Bruno being substituted. So I don't think that was much of a surprise. But do you think, in terms of a coaching system, as just to play devil's advocate, some people would say, regardless of the players on the pitch, obviously we should have enough quality to outplay LASK first and foremost. But secondly, if you've got a structure, you've got a system that it didn't seem like we had yesterday, the players should still be able to deliver a similar style of football to what we've seen when Pogba and Bruno are on the pitch. Yes, the quality is not there, but at least the patterns of play should be similar. And it's, for me, I didn't see any sort of, it was completely two, obviously I know it's completely different lineups, but it looks like completely two different philosophies, if that makes sense, from yesterday and how we've been with our main 11.
Well, I think the main difference between the two, when you have Pogba and Bruno starting and you have these guys starting, is just like Abdel said, it's the decision making. You can talk about structure, you can talk about tactics. I'm sure the tactics didn't change. This is the same players that played against LASK in the first leg and beat them 5-0. So they've played them before. They've been in this situation. They're good enough to smack them 5-0. They should be good enough to smack them again. It didn't happen today. We can talk about yesterday. Sorry, we can talk about lack of match sharpness. We can talk about this, that, and the other. The players just weren't good enough. Simple as that on the night. And match sharpness does come into it. I do understand that. I do agree, but it's a damn shame that Pogba and Martial had to come on for us to show that we have that extra level of quality going forward. So I hear that people would say, well, your structure, you're this, that, what's Ole doing? But you got to talk about the players. The structure can be the same, but if the quality isn't the same, you're not going to get the same sort of passing. You're not going to get the same sort of decision making, which is very key in all areas of the pitch. And the intelligence is not going to be the same. You can't compare Bruno and Pogba's intelligence to Fred. Fred is not an unintelligent player, but he hasn't got as much footballing IQ as Bruno and Pogba in midfield.
Yeah.
So That's for me. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. I think the decision making, a bit of lacking match sharpness, and the fact that, which is annoying to me, but it takes some of our players 4 to 5 games to finally get into a rhythm, which is just not good enough. So yeah, I would go more towards the players for the lack of good execution on the night.
Yeah, I think it comes back to what Abdul said. In particular, in the final third, there were so many occasions that we got into good positions. You know, there was one when I remember, well, Dan James, not to single him out, but he had 2 occasions where he beat his man, did get a good cross in. I believe Fosu Mensah had one as well. And Mata, I know he was offside, but he was trying to play the ball to Igalo when he's literally cluing through on goals. So it surprised me in that sense, in terms of how poor the quality was. But I just wanted to talk about the midfield, because it looked like, Abdul, that Fred was playing the CDM role. I know him and McTominay have played together before in a 2-man midfield, in a 4-2-3-1, but they're normally the other way around. I don't know if you've noticed that as well. It's normally Fred's box to box and McTominay CDM, but it seemed they had a role reversal today. Do you think Ollie was trying to experiment and potentially see if Fred's capable of playing that CDM role? Because obviously we know Matic is getting on. And also on top of that, do you think Fred, did he cover himself in glory, or do you think there's still a lot of work for him to do?
When it comes to Scott and Fred, like during the match itself, Fred improved, but Scott haven't. Scott was still trying to make these long switching passes. He would try to take too many touches or try to beat a man first then before making a pass. But Fred improved, and his one-touch pass started to pick up, and as the match went on. But what I've noticed yesterday is that when we played before, if you guys remember the Tottenham game, the first game back after lockdown, when Jose Mourinho played his 4-4-2 to block us from playing any play centrally, and used his wing backs and his 2 forwards, which was Lamela and Kane at the time, to basically isolate Fred and Scott at the beginning with no way out. So Maguire and Lindelof were not able to put any passes to Fred or Scott, so that they pass to Bruno and move up the pitch centrally. What LASK did, what LASK did was a bit similar. Of course, they don't have the similar quality as Tottenham, but Fred and Scott did the same mistake, which was staying central. Not Fred or Scott, none of them dropped into the middle to create a back 3 and create an overload at the beginning. But at first I thought it was down to the players, but then honestly, when I looked at it again yesterday, I think it's because of Fred and Scott McTominay's lack of ability to be that role. They still are not that pure CDM role that can have the quality of pass to break that first line and the second line as well. So what I think is Ollie can fully yet trust Fred or Scott to be that lone CDM, with Pogba moving up. For example, if Pogba was on the pitch, and Bruno moving up as well with him. So, because also, like, if you have to remember that Scott and Fred, their best qualities is breaking up play. They're combative, so that's why they excel a lot against teams like Man City, where they're pressured and they're on the back foot. They don't have the ball much. All they need to do is break the play and just make one pass to the front.
Yeah.
So this is why they excel at these big matches, at these more difficult matches. And you keep wondering, I'm like, okay, how can Scott and Fred beat someone like Gundogan and Kevin De Bruyne and to do the double over them? But when they play against teams that like Wolves and Watford, and they can't do anything, it's because they're not creative. They're combative midfielders. They'll break the play for you, pass it to the flanks or pass it forward, and that's it.
I think that's a really good point. First and foremost, regarding us playing the 3, obviously Matic does that perfectly when he gets the ball and then drops into the third centre back, or the centre back, so to speak. That's a very interesting point that you made regarding Fred and McTominay. When they're on the ball, they seem to struggle a lot more than when they're trying to move the ball quickly. my counter argument to that is, regardless of who you're playing against, even if it is against LASK, shouldn't you be, as a midfielder or as a coach potentially, Ali, saying, I don't want you to take too many touches, I want you to pass the ball quickly, which is what we saw in the second half. Cole, I just want to come to you regarding the system again. First and foremost, I felt like in the first 15 minutes in particular, the press was very high. I don't know if you noticed. It seemed like they adopted some of the approaches that some of the teams have done in the Premier League that have caused a lot of problems. And it seemed like we struggled again. And also, it seemed like we didn't have any protection from the back four when we was defending because they were getting a lot of pop shots out from the box. Do you put that down to the system, Coach, or do you think it's just that we haven't got the quality there? Because it seemed like it was too easy for us to get into the position in front of the back four.
It's a bit of both. It's a bit of both. I think what Abdel said about Fred and McTominay comes into it. So you've got to find a different way to play them, apply them on the pitch, because I don't know if they know how to break press, either going forward or defending wise. They do try to break up play, but it tends to be quite deep in our area, and they don't break quick enough. And also in this situation, Igalo's not a striker that tries to run in behind the defender, so he's always going to have back to goal anyway, trying to do hold up, which means he's always going to be combating with a defender anyway. And if you are a nice, tall, strong defender, you can compete with Igalo. So in terms of the press, I can maybe look to Ole and say, think about the players, maybe the selection. We can talk about the selection, of course. We wanted to rest our two key players. I think that's why we wanted Matter there as well for the extra creativity. But I feel like we need someone that also runs in behind rather than hold up the play up front. That's what you have to try and consider when you're trying to stop a team pressing you. So they were made to feel comfortable. If I'm being honest, they were made to feel comfortable from very early in the game. That's why they were creating chances. That's why they were whipping balls in, causing a lot of trouble for Bailly and Maguire in the middle. They hit the bar early as well. So, we gave them a lot of freedom from the jump. And that's why they were able to feel comfortable and keep pressing highly. Slowly, we started to get a bit of a stranglehold in the game. Again, decision-making was the reason why we didn't score goals. But you saw it. And since the quality came in, they pressed back because they can't deal with the quality that's coming at them. So now they have to change their game style. So it is a bit of management, but again, it also highlights that some of the players that we have as backup are just not good enough. And it's a bit of both. It's not just one thing. So I wouldn't just scapegoat players or Ole. I'll put a bit of both in between.
Yeah, so obviously you've kind of hit the nail on the head for me personally. It is a bit of both. I think the way we started the game is disappointing. Like I mentioned earlier, we're 5-0 up, we're at home. I was expecting us to set the precedent, not last set the precedent. I was a bit disappointed in the manner in which we allowed them to settle. This is a big game for them. Probably most of that team haven't played at Old Trafford in their careers and probably won't again. So they were definitely nervous into the game, but like you said, we allowed them to settle, which is disappointing. But I want to move on to the second half. For me personally, it was a game of 2 halves. I thought in the first half we were very flat. Second half, it seemed like Ali must have said something at half time because it did change for me, in particular, Mata and Lingard. I know a lot of people. I've read up a lot on social media, and a lot of people saying that Mata was poor. I thought he was absolutely shocking in the first half, but in the second half, for me personally, he was actually man of the match. But I've heard a lot of other people saying otherwise. A lot of people saying he was terrible. But I'll pass it to you, Abdul. What were your thoughts in the second half, and what do you think actually changed?
Well, on Mata, for example, I don't think he played that bad in the first half. I just think that people were not on the same level of thinking as him. So
Yeah.
Mata would pass to you one step in front, and you have to think that step before, so that you can get to Mata's ball. And Mata is just slow. That's his only disadvantage.
Yeah.
That's the only problem he had. Now the second problem, which Oli changed in the second half, which was Mata played on the right to accommodate not having a right winger, and James played on the left. With Lingard as well in the 10, that means you have two players that have the habit or the tendency to move centrally, or centrally to the left as well, not even to the right. So what Oli did later on in the match was move Mata to the 10 in the second half, move James to the right, and keep Lingard on the left. So both players who have a tendency to stay left are on the left side anyway. and with James staying on the right, we keep our width. So that change helped us a lot because Timothy Fotomensah wasn't bad yesterday. It's just he was alone on the right flank. That's the only problem he had. And when Mata did drop to help him out, they were just not combining together very, very well. So that was the biggest change for me. And even before the change was made, I've noticed myself because I watched games with Stephen Noyes with the I've heard the coaches tell them, Mata, stay wide, Mata, stay wide, James, stay wide. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Move in front, because he's stopping too deep and to the left. So they're telling them, but just the tendency of the player itself sometimes take over. Regarding again, I'm just gonna say that again. That we broke the press so many times because like later on in the game, the sharpness of the passing improved. They started all working together because sometimes I've noticed this in United, we're working in two blocks. The first block is the four back players and the two central midfielders, and the second block is the four forward players, which is the center forward and the three behind him. When we do that, it's hard to transition. How are you going to break the press line? And even if you break the first line, the second pass is far too long. Any other player were intercepted. So I noticed that Mata and James moved backwards to help their fullbacks and their CDMs, and only Lingard and Igalo stayed upward a little bit, which that helped them beat the press so many times. It's just like I said, the decision making when we reached that final third. We had so many 3v1 v2s, 2v1s, 1v1s.
Well, we had a 5v2/3.
Yeah, we had so many of them. I
Completely
feel
ruined
it
it.
would have been like 3-0 up at halftime if we just our decision making was better.
Yeah, it was disappointing. I felt the same. We had so many overloads, and we just, like you said, we weren't executing, and that does come down to the quality. Kojo, obviously, Abdul's made a very valid point. I think most fans probably was a bit shocked when the lineup first came out to see Mata on the right wing again. We've already spoken about his lack of pace. Even in his heyday, he never was really blessed with pace. The fact that he's coming to the end of his sort of tenure, so to speak, he's still playing on the right wing. The change was made second half, and it definitely paid dividends. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, well, me personally, I've never really understood. The only season that Matt's been here, that him playing on the right made sense, was when Angel Di Maria played in the middle.
Yeah.
That's the only time it made sense because Angel Di Maria can play as a certain midfielder, so he can do the box role, carry the ball, and Mata and him can interchange. His IQ is very high, so I understand the confidence in him to play that role and play on the right. But as an opponent, you're going to say this guy lacks pace. If I stop him from cutting in, he's going to either have to go down to try and beat me for pace, or he's going to have to go back and pass it backwards. So when you put him in number 10 and you give him a lot more freedom in the middle of the pitch, where he can turn left to right, go back, go in front, you're going to see his creativity come to the fore. That's why when we talk about players that fans say maybe should go, or I don't ever want him gone. I don't want him gone right now. I don't think it's the time. Because in terms of backup, he's one of the few players that has that creativity that we need to take us to that wins when we're missing our Brunos or our Pogbas for a game or two. So you can see the difference. You can see the difference when he went into the middle. Playing James on the right was very important, very, very key because James knows how to follow instruction. If you tell him to stay out wide, he stays there. That's it. Job done. Whereas Lingard on the left makes sense as well because he knows how to cut in. So the second half, that's why we saw improvement because players were where they needed to be, especially in the final third. Simple as that. And then, of course, when you saw the better players come in, then you saw the result of the game. So, yeah, don't ever put Matt on the right ever again.
I think the only reason, sorry, I had to cut you. I think the only reason he was done a good run because Lingard. You had to accommodate Lingard. Lingard is defense.
Yeah.
I know he's not that bad on the wings and he's faster than Mata, but sometimes we do have a saying like your IQ can sometimes help you when you have pace issues. But his problem, Mata, is always cutting in its center.
Yeah.
But he's left-footed, isn't he? So
Yeah, too many times he and Lingard are in the middle to the left. Why? I had no idea.
Yeah.
it's just one of those things, isn't it? Obviously, certain players have certain. We used to see it with Sanchez, not last season, but season before, when Sanchez liked to occupy that similar place to where Pogba was, and it was just causing too many problems for both players. Just regarding Lingard, because we've spoken about him, Lingard actually got given man of the match and got dragged off quite early as well. I was just curious to know your guys' thoughts, not only on his performance, but we'll come to you, Kodjo, first. Just regarding the fact that he got dragged off, do you think that means that he might potentially be in contention for a game against Copenhagen, or do you think it was just Ali thinking, you know what, I've seen enough of you?
I think it was just a substitution being made. I think that's as far as it gets. I think we all know the team that's going to line up against Copenhagen. We know our strongest 11, and unless there's any injury, I don't think we're going to even see Lingard being considered as a starting 11 player. So
Yeah.
I think it was a substitution. He played all right. He did what he had to do. He got his goal. So whether he deserved man of the match or not, I would have probably given it to Mata instead, but I do understand why he got it. But yeah, for me, it's just a substitution. And I think we all know where we're going to get back to when it comes to Copenhagen.
Yeah, obviously, Coach was quite confidently said it was just a sign of substitute. I'm not gonna lie, I was a bit surprised that he got substituted off. I thought he was on it to get at least a two, at least a brace, and potentially a hat trick. Abdul, what were your thoughts on his performance overall? And do you think he's potentially, I don't want to say play himself into position to play, because realistically speaking, Greenwood's going to start. But do you still think Lingard's got something to offer to the team off the bench?
Yeah, I still do think like Lingard. I mean, I know people wrote him off, and believe me, I'm one of them. I thought he's not going to get his form back, and but he has qualities. He has a lot of qualities that a lot of people don't have. I mean, his ability to find spaces and constantly be on the run is trouble for defenders, and that's his best quality. Now, if he just improves, because before he picked up form a little bit, his issue was his passes, that breaking pass every time it fails. And I mean, like, forget to talk about the goals and assists. And I know it's important for a player that plays in the 10, but if you connect play well, that's more than enough for them. And he wasn't doing that. But in finding space, he was still good at it. Throughout the season, in finding space, Lingard has not, this quality has not left him, but it's week. So yeah, I think he has his uses. He has his uses in games where we're on the back foot and we want to only break on a team. These games, Lingard is very useful.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, man. I think where Lingard doesn't get credit is his movement off the ball is so good. I can think back to the game against City where we were breaking over and over. And his runs were beautiful. He was making great runs off the ball over and over every time he counter-attacked. And the game felt easy because he was such a good outlet for that kind of breakaway. So he has his uses. I understand this is the era of everything is stats. Everything is stats with people. But when you have players that offer something different and it helps you score goals, even if they're not scoring goals or creating goals, the fact that their movement off the ball can help you create something in general is very useful. We're not asking to start every game, but he is a decent squad player. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I think. By the way, sorry to tell you this one. Something I noticed yesterday, just for people who are watching, Lingard yesterday was the one actually very vocal on the pitch. He told the people when we got two counterattacks on us in the first half and they almost scored. Well, I mean, two good chances. He told them, like, team, wake the fuck up, like he literally told them that. I heard it out. And he told the defensive line, and he's an attacker, switch for the fuck on. I'm like, you're the number 10 and you have the captain on the back line, and you're the one who's giving shouts and orders. So like Lingard really cares about this club, and Lingard will give his heart and soul to this club. But he just needs to improve it.
Yeah, obviously what you guys have both said, I do agree. In terms of what he offers the team from a tactical standpoint, it's just his movement off the ball, creating space for others. I think that's the most important thing. Like you said, Abdul, he hasn't lost that quality. And that's something that he does offer us that other players don't. Just before we go on to the Copenhagen game and just how you just to quickly brief on how you would approach the game, I've got to mention one other player. You might be able to guess who it is, but some people on the streets know him as Marcel, and other people on the pitch know him as Chong. Lads, was this just a stroke of complete genius by Ali, or was it just its last boys relax? Koji, we'll come to you first. Koji will come to you regarding Chong, and then Abdul will come to you on Chong's unbelievable cameo. What are your thoughts?
First of all, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised to see him play like that left back. I really don't hope that's his future, because I think he can offer a lot more as a pure winger. But he looked damn good. I can't lie, he looked damn good. He was skillful. He was using left and right foot. He was becoming another attacking outlet. It was damn near impressive. And I can't lie, if it's a game where we decide to play maybe like a 3-5-2 and someone is a wing back / winger or whatever, then he is a good player to put out there. But yeah, it was fun.
You're not getting ahead of yourself, Coach. It's only last.
It's
what was it, 6-1 up or something at the time?
Yeah, exactly. It's only last. I'm taking my time, but it was impressive. I have to give him credit for that, because he's one of the young players that come through that's actually been kind of criticised by United fans. Obviously because Gomez is gone, so they prefer Gomez over the two. But he's still a good young player, regardless of who you think is better. He's still very good, and there's a reason why he's made it through the academy. So I'm good. I'm good with that. Yesterday it was fun to watch, but would I call it a stroke of genius? No, it's just my setup for the day. Little Halloween thing, So yeah.
Abdul will come to you. Stroke of genius, or it's just last week, relax.
It's not a stroke of genius. I think it's just a fruit of the system, because Ali talks about being fluid all the time, right? And we do see that in the front four, front five, whatever you want to call them. They keep interchanging places all the time. I mean, we ended the match with a centre back playing with right back, a winger playing as a left back.
Yes.
And like, you know what I mean? So to me, that's just a fruit of the structure that Ollie has put. They know the system well. The problems we see is just sometimes with the quality of the players itself. And a player like Chong thrives on space, right? So that left back position offered him that yesterday. He looked so good in it. It offered him that space to beat a man and just run.
Yeah.
When he played as a right winger, if I'm not mistaken, the last time he played for us, he played against a team that was using a low block or bang.
Yeah, he was struggling massively,
and
wasn't he?
He had two on him.
Yeah,
so he was scared to lose the ball and beat his man. You know what I mean? So he was given the perfect environment to thrive yesterday. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And it also highlighted that no matter who you put in the position, they know what to do. It just depends on the quality.
I think that's a very important point that you've made at the end there. Obviously, the players know what they need to do. It depends on the quality. But I completely agree with both of you.
Because Martial played the 10, by the way, yesterday.
Martial crapped me up yesterday. You could just tell he just wanted to score so badly.
Yeah.
Some people said he's putting at Rashford, but I don't know.
Winger as a left back, centre back as a right back, a striker as a 10.
Well, we was 6-1 up at the time, and it is when it's 10 minutes left. Right, boys, just to finish off the show. Obviously, before we go into the last part, if you are watching still, make sure you drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're trying to get to 500 subscribers, so we really would appreciate that. But yeah, just to finish off, just a brief, very important game for us on Monday. Me personally, I want to win the trophy. I'm sure a lot of United fans would agree. Copenhagen, very impressive in the last game against Istanbul, winning 3-1. They look very lively, especially in the first 20-30 minutes. I believe Varela got the assist, actually, for the first goal. So obviously, that'll be interesting to see how that works out. We'll come to you first, Abdul. How would you approach this game? Because we've seen, like I mentioned, this game, we've been very slow, lethargic to start out the blocks, and also we've allowed other teams to settle. Obviously, it's basically a one-off game, isn't it? Practically a knockout, like a cup final, so to speak.
Yeah.
How would you go into this game, and how would you approach it?
I would keep Romero in goal, to be honest. Ollie wants to tell De Gea that he has the confidence and he's still our number one, but I'll keep Romero. And for the starting lineup itself, I would just put more creativity on. That's all. Like I would put Rashford on, I would put Pogba on,
Yeah.
maybe keep Fred. Williams, there's nobody else. So
Yeah.
left
Well,
back,
Chong maybe.
yeah, or Chung maybe. Yeah, you never know. Timothy Fosu-Mensah will probably play right back, or Aaron. Aaron on the second. But I would just put creativity on with just a little mix of the bench players, just to keep them sharp. So if we need them in a final, someone gets injured or something, they're really sharp,
Yeah.
ready to go.
Yeah, so obviously I've just gone for a very similar lineup. In terms of the way we play Kojo, and obviously the way we approach the game in terms of a tactical standpoint, what do you want from us in terms of the way we go out and play the game?
Total control. You need to really try and stamp your authority from the beginning. I think it will be great for the team's confidence if they can get a goal within the first 10 minutes.
Yeah,
So I'm not asking to go gung ho and risk something at the back, because I do like Lindelof, a guy. I think
no
certain
comment.
things of him, but no. In general, I think we just need to take control, not let them press too much on our defenders, because I think sort of like an arrogance we have here is when we look at a team, and because they're not like a big name per se, we think should be doable. We don't really know their threats, but they've got threats. Yeah, but they've got threats, and that's the reason why they are so far in the Europa League. So try and take control of the game, try and stamp your authority, try and get an early goal, and then once you get the early goal, try and play the game to your tempo. Don't let them try and get any control at any moment of the game. Get your second, and then kill the game off maybe a third or a fourth, or just cut the game off completely and advance.
Yeah, I think that for me was the most disappointing thing in yesterday's game. The fact that we didn't seem to have control of it, especially the first 30, 40 minutes. Well, I say 40 minutes, but 30 minutes in particular, it looked like LASK were controlling the game, and that's what disappointed me the most. So going to this game, I completely agree with both of you. I think in terms of team lineup, which you said, Abdul, and obviously Kojo, regarding control, that's the most important thing for me. We've got the better quality players, so we have to dominate this game in terms of possession, controlling the tempo, and setting the precedent. I think that's the most important thing. Okay, boys, just to finish off, gonna have to do a score prediction, aren't we? Abdul, we'll come to you first. No sitting on the fence. We want a score prediction. What are you going for?
I'll go with a 2-0. 2-0.
Okay, it's a fairly comfortable. Kojo,
Yeah.
what do you reckon?
I'm gonna go 3-0.
Okay, the thing is, I'm not really sure what's gonna happen. I'll be honest with you, but I'm gonna have to say 3-0 Man United as well. Just the fact with Bruno fully rested. Obviously, Pogba played about 15-20 minutes. Hopefully, he'll be all right. Martial came on and scored. I'm sure, by the way, just to throw this in there, Rashford's gonna want to score now because Martial's overtaken him. So hopefully,
That work was for him, by the way.
yeah, exactly. Hopefully, he's pissed off and he gets a brace and takes it out on Copenhagen. So long may that rivalry competition between the two players continue. And boys and girls, thank you very much for tuning in. Like I've already mentioned during the show, make sure you do drop a like and subscribe to All for United YouTube channel. If you are watching this later, let us know what your thoughts were on yesterday's game. Who was your man of the match? And also let us know your score prediction for Copenhagen. Apart from that, it's been your boy Usmaan. Go United! Go on. Peace.